You've probably heard that the purpose of prisons isn't just to punish, but also to reform.
And the worst bit about that wasn't the ligature and it wasn't his neck. He just screamed at me, "Let me die."
But what if I told you there's a prison in London where reform is no longer possible, where conditions are so bad that even the staff feel unsafe? Yes, we're talking about Wormwood Scrubs, one of the worst prisons in the UK. In today's video, we'll explore what's really happening inside and what it says about our justice system.
This is Wormwood Scrubs prison. It was constructed in the 1870s, and it was probably the first prison in Europe.
Wormwood Scrubs might sound like the name of a scary place from a movie or a horror show, but nope, it's totally real. It's actually one of the most infamous prisons in London, and it's been around for more than a century. It's located in West London, and the full name is Her Majesty's Prison Wormwood Scrubs, but most people just call it the Scrubs. The prison was built in the late 1800s during the Victorian era. Back then, it was supposed to represent a new way of thinking about prisons. Instead of just punishing people, the idea was to also help them reform and return to society as better individuals. That's why it was called a model prison. It had a strong brick structure, clean design, and followed a strict set of rules based on discipline and order. In the early years, Wormwood Scrubs mostly stuck to that plan. But as time passed, the system inside began to slowly break down. By the 1970s, serious problems had already taken root, and reports started coming out about what was really going on behind those high walls. The prison had become overcrowded. Inmates were being packed into small cells that were originally built for just one person, but now held two, or sometimes even three. Many of these prisoners were kept locked inside for 23 hours a day, with very little time outside. This led to extreme mental stress, violence, and a complete lack of basic human dignity. And the situation wasn't made any better by the people running the place. Many guards were accused of corruption, physical abuse, and even helping to smuggle illegal items, like drugs, into the prison. Instead of keeping things under control, some officers were actively making the environment more dangerous. And this is where things get truly disturbing. The Her Majesty's Inspectorate of Prisons, which is responsible for checking the condition of prisons in the UK, has visited Wormwood Scrubs many times, and almost every time, they gave it terrible ratings.
Like others among the 20,000 Prison Officers Association staff in England and Wales, officers here are staging a day of protest. They've acted after the latest in a series of urgent notifications about dangerous conditions in prisons.
One of the worst reports came in 2001. The chief inspector at the time called the prison's conditions unacceptably degrading. That means people were being treated in ways that no one should ever be treated, no matter what crime they committed. For example, many inmates didn't have proper toilets in their cells. Instead, they were forced to use buckets to relieve themselves, and sometimes they weren't allowed to empty them for hours. That's not just disgusting, it's humiliating. Basic health care was also a major issue. Many prisoners who needed medical attention were left untreated. Even simple things like access to a doctor or nurse were often delayed or denied. For someone sick or injured, this could be life-threatening. As a result, self-harm rates went up rapidly. People were hurting themselves out of stress, fear, or untreated mental illness. And that's another major problem. Mental health care inside the prison was almost non-existent. In 2014, a report revealed something even more shocking. Over 100 inmates had taken their own lives at Wormwood Scrubs in just over a decade. That's more than 10 deaths per year in one prison.
We had a really bad week at Scrubs where we found 3 men hanging in the same week. I remember walking past his cell and just having a feeling that maybe I should look in. And I could just see his legs dangling. And the worst bit about that wasn't the ligature and it wasn't his neck. He just screamed at me, "Let me die."
But perhaps the most horrifying part? Several prison officers were accused of ignoring self-harm warnings. There were cases where prisoners showed clear signs of distress, even told staff they were going to harm themselves. And still, no one acted in time. So how did things get this bad? The answer isn't just about one prison. It's about a system that stopped working a long time ago. Wormwood Scrubs is just one piece of a much larger problem. The entire UK prison system is overstretched, underfunded, and falling apart. There simply isn't enough money, staff, or resources to run prisons properly anymore. Over the years, the government kept cutting prison budgets. That meant fewer staff were hired, and even the officers who were there were expected to do more with less support. Training for new officers became rushed and low quality, which made the environment inside even more dangerous. There have been whistleblowers, former staff and insiders, who came forward to tell the truth. They said violence inside Wormwood Scrubs was often ignored by senior officials because reporting it would make the prison look bad on paper. Instead of solving the problems, the goal became hiding them. One former officer said that during official inspections, the prison would prepare the inmates in advance. That means they were told what to say, how to act, and even warned not to speak about certain things. In some cases, inmates were moved to other prisons temporarily, just to make the place look less crowded for the inspection team. It's almost like cleaning your house before guests arrive, except in this case it was about hiding serious human rights violations. This kind of cover-up culture is sadly not unique to Wormwood Scrubs. The same pattern happens in many government-run institutions where there is no accountability. Problems get buried, reports get ignored, and the people suffering inside are treated like they don't exist.
Well, there was still quite a lot of debris. There were dustbins, broken tables, broken chair legs, bits of clothing, all sorts of things on the netting, and also quite a lot of broken glass around.
It's one thing to read reports and statistics, but when you hear the stories directly from people who lived through it, the reality becomes even harder to ignore. Many former inmates of Wormwood Scrubs have spoken out over the years, and most of them describe their time there as psychological torture. One man who served time there said he was locked inside his cell for 23 hours a day, every single day, for 7 months straight. He didn't see sunlight. He had no proper exercise, barely any contact with the outside world. He said it felt like he was slowly losing his mind. Another former inmate claimed that guards would purposely put rival gang members in the same cell just to stir up violence. Instead of stopping fights, they allowed them to happen, or even encouraged them. Some prisoners said it felt like they were being used for entertainment, or worse, to punish each other. BBC documentaries and many independent journalists have investigated Wormwood Scrubs and interviewed dozens of ex-prisoners. Their stories may differ in the details, but the message is always the same. This is a place where people are forgotten. One former inmate told reporters, "You leave either dead, broken, or a worse criminal than when you entered." That's a chilling statement. And the most disturbing part? It wasn't an exaggeration. Many of these men went in hoping to serve their time, change their lives, and start fresh. But inside Wormwood Scrubs, they found the opposite. No support, no help. Just fear, anger, and deep emotional pain. Some said that it wasn't just about the physical conditions. It was about being treated like you're not human, being ignored when you cried for help, being punished for speaking up, being locked in a tiny space, and feeling like no one cared whether you lived or died. When conditions in Wormwood Scrubs started getting more attention, the UK government finally stepped in, at least on paper. In 2016, there was a big announcement. The Justice Secretary at the time, Michael Gove, actually visited Wormwood Scrubs. He admitted that the prison had serious problems and promised that change was on the way. It sounded like a new beginning, but here we are, nearly 10 years later, and not much has actually changed. If you read the most recent reports, like the ones from 2023, you'll notice something depressing. They still talk about the exact same problems. Poor hygiene is still a major issue. Inmates often go without proper showers, clean clothes, or working toilets. Lack of staff means fewer guards are available to keep things safe, which leads to more violence and fear inside. Drugs are still being openly sold and used in the prison. Instead of being a secure facility, Wormwood Scrubs has become a place where illegal substances move freely. And perhaps most concerning, mental health care is still described as critically inadequate. That means prisoners who are suffering from serious mental illness are not getting the help they need. In short, all the promises made in 2016 are still just promises. Over the years, many activists, NGOs, and human rights groups have tried to push for real reform. They've written reports, met with politicians, and raised public awareness. But their efforts often get blocked by political red tape, meaning paperwork, bureaucracy, and leaders who talk a lot but act very little. Sometimes it seems like politicians only care when the cameras are rolling. After the news dies down, so does the urgency to fix things. The truth is, without consistent pressure and accountability, broken systems like this don't repair themselves. When a prison focuses only on punishment and forgets about rehabilitation, it creates a cycle. People go in angry or broken and come out even worse. Many return to crime. Some become more violent, and instead of solving the problem, we're just pushing it down the road. That's exactly what's been happening at Wormwood Scrubs. Overcrowded, violent, poorly managed prisons don't make us safer. They don't fix anything. They only create more pain for the inmates, the staff, and even the communities outside. And this isn't just about one prison in London. Wormwood Scrubs is a warning sign, a symptom of something much deeper. When you look closely, you see a justice system that's struggling at every level. Underfunded courts, overworked public defenders, outdated prison policies, and a society that often prefers to ignore what happens behind prison walls. The mindset becomes, they're criminals, they deserve it. But that's dangerous thinking. Not everyone in prison is violent or evil. Some made mistakes. Some were failed by the system long before they were locked up. And everyone, no matter their past, deserves basic human rights. Should prisons focus more on punishment or on helping people change? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more such deep dives into real-world issues.